the history of lure fishing. So I've made some notes, I've done some research, and we're going to get into it. Ah, great. Another video without any fishing in it. Before we get into lure fishing, let's talk about fishing in general. So fishing has always been around, we've always eaten fish as humans, but some of the earliest accounts of fishing with a rod and reel were in Chinese and Egyptian history, and this was in around about 2000 BC, so that's like over 4,000 years ago. They used to use bronze for their hooks. They didn't really have line, and the first accounts of line being made was from China. And that was when they used to spun it from silk. So it was silk line that they used to use in the early days of fishing. Most of the Egyptians used to use hand lines for their fishing. But there was some accounts of some sport fishing going on. So what we're going to do now is fly way up into the future, around about the 2nd century, 200 AD. There was a Roman author called Claudius Alanius, right? Check him out, he looks like a nice guy. And he actually wrote a book about animals and wildlife. One of the first books that was ever really produced about wildlife. And he used to be a fly fisherman. And he used to actually make his own lures out of bronze and they said horsehair and some other stuff like that. So maybe he was making his own little jig flies in the 2nd century, which is absolutely insane. But the first proper documentation of lures was from the Nordic people. They used to use spoons that were forged from iron, bronze and copper, and some of their lures look absolutely insane, and you can see by some of the examples. These are obviously really old ones, but they used to have little designs on them. From one account, they saw that a copper spoon had a soldered iron hook on it. So they used to be quite intuitive with how they were catching food. You've got to think back in the day, you know, it was so difficult to eat and maintain. So fishing and this new style of fishing, this lure fishing, was a way of life, a way of survival really. So that's pretty much where it started from, for the need of survival. Now, you're wrong there. The lures started in Dudley in the 20s. So now we jump forward to the middle of the 18th century, around about 1750s, here in England. The tackle shops used to sell lures. I think the first lure they used to sell were little tin minnows, but they weren't commercially produced. What they used to do, the tackle shops, they used to make their own lures for people. They used to make things like painted rubber baits, so things like we use today, like the shads, they were selling those in the 1750s. So even though we've had a mad evolution of lure fishing, some of the fundamentals are still the same. We still use spoons and spinners today, just like they did in 1200 years ago. It's said that many anglers used to create their own lures because they weren't commercially produced. So imagine what that was like. You'd see a fisherman on the bank and you'd see what lure he was using. You'd be like, how did you make that? They didn't have YouTube, they didn't have the internet, they didn't have really tackle shops selling stuff. So the angler had to be much more of an engineering mind to create his lures, and imagine how many of those lures failed. I mean, we can complain about our modern lures, about that they're not so great, but imagine how bad they used to be. So I've got a piece of tinfoil here, and I'm going to try and make the best lure I can out of the tinfoil. Right. That's the tail. Okay. It's a big lure. So that's like something I would have made. I reckon that'd catch a 20. The USA were one of the first countries to commercially produce lures, and that was in the late 19th century, around about 1890s. You can see some of the examples of the lures and how sometimes demonic they looked. They had so many hooks on them. I tell you what, I bet they had a good hookup rate. Most of the lures in the US were made for bass fishing, the predominant predator there in the US. In the US, bass fishing took off. It became so popular, and in 1967 the bass tournament was created. Now, I did some research and I looked at the prize money from the last bass tournament in 2020, and the winner got $300,000. That is insane to go fishing. Imagine that in the UK. These bass anglers are household names, they're celebrities. The person who has earned the most money through bass fishing is a guy called Jacob Wheeler, and he has earned over 2 million in prize money alone. Now that's without sponsors, without doing advertising, without doing public appearances, book signings, all of those things. So imagine how much money that guy has earned from simply lure fishing. Insane. I'm going to earn that much money catching pike in Dudley. So America had their US bass laws, a lot of surface laws, they had it clocked. But we needed something here in Europe. So in 1920s, a company called Abu was created. Now you see us using Abu Garcia laws all the time. I want to talk to you a little bit how that came about. The guy who founded Abu was called Carl August Borgstorm. And he was a designer. He used to create watches, he used to create taxi time meters, phone time meters. But after the Second World War, there wasn't really a need for these things anymore, and he had to try and change his tact of what he was going to produce. So he decided to start making some reels. And the first reel he made was the Abu Reload. And as you can see, that is some old school. And that was about 1941 that he made that. A few years down the line, he merged his company with an American company, and their company was Garcia, and then came Abu Garcia. That was around about the 70s. Because Abu Garcia was predominantly a Swedish company, and pike is the predominant predator in Sweden, they started making pike laws that were a bit different to the bass laws. So then we start to see some of the laws that we can recognise. So I wanted to go through some of the laws that I use that you've seen on the channel before. So I'll start off with the small ones. So this type of lure I use for perch fishing, zander fishing in the UK, and you'll probably most likely catch a pike on it as well. As you can see, it's got like a 3D scanned images on. Back in the 1750s, they used to hand paint these lures in local tackle shops to sell to the local community. And these are mass produced, and they have that consistency of quality as well. And this is called the Abu Garcia McPerch. We've caught some lovely zander on this. Now we start to look at some of the bigger baits. This is a hard bait. As you can hear, it's got a nice rattling to attract the predator fish. And this is like a little size up, and as you can see, it's got that 3D scanning on it again to fool the predator fish as if it's thinking it's a real fish. So much different from the hand painted lures that would have been done back in the day in the 1890s in America. Now let's get on to the big stuff, my favourite stuff, the pike fishing gear. As you know, on the Snagged Bro channel we love pike fishing. So pike fishing in the UK is something that is relatively growing in popularity. Me and Sean love fishing on canals, which is interesting because when the canals were made in the 1640s, they were polluted, there was no fish in them at all. And now that's where we go fishing, that's where we catch the top predator fish in the UK. And let me tell you, there are a good few pike in the UK canal system. Now we're on to the big stuff, the pike gear. This bad boy is the Abu Garcia Beast Twin Tail. I wonder why it's called the Twin Tail. This is two tails. Look how insane this lure is compared to those early lures. So as you can see, this lure has got a jig head on it with one hook coming off. It's also got a stinger attached to it with a treble hook. I've also added this little rattle to it as well, which gives it that extra attraction. You can also add things like this little magnet here that you can screw in and that you can keep your treble hook in place. With the rig I've got here, I've got a little metal lip there that goes into it. So these are the type of lures that are catching pike now. There's other styles of them as well. So you can have your simple paddle tail lure. What these lures do is they emulate dying fish, sick fish. When you're fishing, they'll come and smash the lure side on like that, and then the hook there will hook the pike. Let's have a look at another example of a hard lure that's a big boy. Not a big boy, but you know. So this, like the smaller one, is a bit of a jerk bait, and as you can hear, it's got that rattling. It's got this tailing. I think the baits are all about attraction, all about creating that noise in the water. Because, as we've seen, they used to catch pike 1200 years ago on little bits of bronze. The pike will eat most things. But now what they're doing is they're just honing in on what they like. And lures like this are just... Imagine how much you would catch more if you give this to a Viking back in the day than what he was catching on his spoon. So this is the Abu Garcia McHybrid. When you look at the array of these lures that you have now, it's amazing to see where it come from. From really a thing of survival and eating and using what you had, and anglers creating their own lures, to now where it's an amazing sport that everyone takes and they just want it for the fun of it and to release the fish as well. I just think that's absolutely amazing. So that is a brief overview of lure fishing, the history of lure fishing with Snagged Bro. I love lure fishing, and I love seeing a pike smash the bait right in front of you, and then you have to go to the toilet and quickly wipe your bum. Go have a look at the description for all the links to the lures that I've been showing you. Alright. I'm going to leave you now with one of my favourite catches, and you can see I get a little bit overexcited by it. But it just, for me, sums up the essence of lure fishing and how great it can be. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I know you've already liked it. I know you're already subscribed. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, you bum. What? Fish on? Oh! Oh mate, it's a big one. Get my net. I've got it, I've got it, I've got it. Oh.
Come on, bro. What?
Whoa! Whoa! Yes! Let's go!
Same spot. Oh my god.
Are you rolling?
Yeah.
Mate, what's happened? When was the last time I caught 3 pike in a day? This is a big mama. Oh yes. Oh.
Looks big, bro. Ooh. Whoa. Oh, it's battered and bruised, man.
Oh, mate, how nice is that?
Oh my god.
Mate, I can't believe I caught 3 fish in like an hour. This is the best fishing day I've ever had. Please like the video right now. Show your appreciation for this beast. Let's get it back, yeah?
Yeah, man.
Oh.